Hey, what's up, Cosmetic family?
Thank you for joining us on the Cosmetic Podcast.
Cosmetic being a person, a thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Keith Benson.
And I'm Rodrigo Ross.
And so today we're talking about potent power of privilege.
Yes!
I made it through.
Come on with that yes, you did.
Well, I thought them 3 P's was going to get me for a second there.
I was ready for it all.
So this is all about privilege. I mean, we've talked a lot about privilege over these last few months.
Yeah.
But we've lent one lens to it. And that lens has been more to white privilege. We are going to talk about white privilege, but we all fit in some category of privilege. You know, privilege is when you think something is not a problem because it's not a problem to you. Right?
Yeah.
And so privilege is advantages and benefits that individuals receive because they are part of this social group.
Yeah.
You know, they are perceived to be a part of, the social group they're perceived to be a part of, but privilege is often a result of systematic targeting and or marginalizing another social group.
Yeah. It's this intentionality around amplifying that a certain group of people have a special right or an advantage or some kind of immunity, right, that is granted or made available to them only because they are part of that particular group. Like privilege it's deep.
It's very deep.
And there's so many different kinds, right? Like you said, of course, what has been dominating the topics of many folks' conversations is this idea around white privilege. But don't be mistaken. There are all kinds of privilege. And even in your everyday lives, when you just go about doing things and you don't think twice about it, but then if you were confronted by someone who that's not your reality, I hope that folks realize, that's a privilege, right? Like the fact that I can go outside and my allergies can bother me, and I may get a little bothered and I'll take a Benadryl, but I don't have any adverse effects. That is a privilege. There are some people who they have asthma and COPD and they have really adverse health effects from just trying to breathe outside air, right? Like that is a privilege of mine because, I'm a part of that group and I benefit from that.
And so we always, we got to look in the mirror and check our own selves when it comes to different things. And so the mere fact that you have allergies, you have allergies. Oh, I know I can go get a Benadryl. There's some people who can't even go and get the medicine that is needed. Right. And they have to continue to suffer time and time again, with those things. Yep. And when we think about asthma, we're talking about that, and especially in some of our less resource communities, that is something that is prevalent in that space right there. But young people continue to get that.
Yes.
And there's no remedy to it because, they may not have the resources to be able to go get the meds that they need.
At disproportional rates, right? So you will find there's absolutely a relationship, right, between class and socioeconomic status and chronic illnesses like asthma or heart disease or COPD. It's because years of not having access to or being overexposed to, fill in the blank, right, causes those populations, because they don't have some level of privilege, to have adverse health outcomes.
Yeah, and we got to be able to, tackle those things, So when we think about this whole space of privilege, again, like the easy thing is the white privilege, because that's what we've been talking about, especially in the social justice space. Now, that is very, very true, and we'll spend a little bit of time on the white privilege part. That when we take a look at our different things, when I think about the media, for example, we all heard about the Golden Globes here recently, and the discussion there is that when you think about media and you're looking at TV. You're looking at movies, listening to the radio. There's a lot of different takes that you can take a look at that in terms of when who are you watching on those different mediums right there. And
do you see yourself?
Right.
Representation matters.
Right.
Yep.
And that is so key. So here's this one around beauty. Like beauty is a privilege.
I know.
Awkward pause.
Right?
Yes.
I know.
Yes. And so, I was at a
way to avoid that.
We were at was at a conference a couple of years ago, and the speaker said, "Hey," he said, "everybody take out your phones." He said, "This is one time I'm gonna give you permission." So I would ask for those who are listening, take out your phones, or if you're at your desktop or whatever, you're on your laptop, and pull up Google. And I want you to type in "beautiful baby."
Okay.
And when you type up beautiful baby, now there's up to millions of people in this world.
Yep.
But when you pull up Google and you put in beautiful baby, 99.9% of the pictures, you can just scroll on Google to go down.
Yeah.
99.9% pictures are of white babies.
No way. I want to go on Google right now.
And then put in there also beautiful man.
And you'll get the same results?
And you get the same results.
Wow.
White male. And so that's the whole place of, is that the
standard, right? And if you don't look like that, then you're not privileged? Wow.
Privilege in the beauty space.
That is amazing. I'm going to try that one. I'm definitely going to. Because I absolutely feel like I have the beauty privilege.
I mean, we all want to be able to see ourselves when we look up a word like beauty, or at least see someone that looks like us.
Yeah.
And our, algorithms or whatever the case may be sends us all to one message. And so a lot of times when we're looking at TV, we only see one image of. Well, for years, we've only seen one image, and it's not until now that you have some different actors and actresses there raising their voices to a space where that's changing, and so you do see some changes over the last couple of years as it relates to the Oscars and all the
award shows.
All the different award shows. But because there's been a privilege in that space. I mean, when you look up the top 10, 20 actors and actresses up there, Samuel L. Jackson is number one as far as grossing, but he has double the amount of shows that he's been in to be able to get that. And so the person who's number two is a white male. They're close to Samuel L. Jackson, but he got double the amount of times that he's been in the show. So like, how do you get that? This is something that's so unequal right there.
And so it also makes me think. So chase a rabbit for a second. So most people think of the algorithms in our technology as being just that, right? Like, you don't think that if there's going to be some bias in the algorithms or in IT, so to speak. But just the fact that you can type in that beautiful baby and get that lopsided, right, imagery, just how is privilege really impacting spaces that are supposed to be non-biased? Things like IT and artificial intelligence and all that. Because people on some level have to program that and do all of that. And so are they inadvertently putting their bias in? So as a result, your artificial intelligence and the things that kind of drive some of these Google, analytics and all that.
Yeah, and I'm not the IT person by any stretch of the means, but I gotta think that there is enough diverse individuals that are going onto Google to be able to put in words that don't come up 99.9%.
That is fascinating.
White.
Fascinating. So that's just one, beauty privilege.
Yeah, but that privilege leads to other things. And so when you're talking about careers and, modeling, or when you think about, whatever the case may be, that's the image that's out there. And that's where that beauty, privilege, comes into play.
Well, and so you also have folks who are privileged in that they can make decisions and not have to think through it really, really hard, right? And so, for instance, for lunch, I can just decide, I want to go out for lunch. I'm just going to go, grab me something for lunch. And my biggest thing is really deciding what it is that I want to eat. But there are many people, if they had to think through that, they're like, okay, what else is going to be adversely affected? Do I have any money? Do I have transportation? Do I have some kind of physical, something going on that keeps me from eating certain things? Like, just in that everyday task of just figuring out what to eat lunch, there is some privilege.
Yeah, I mean, so the mere fact that you don't even have to think about even making a lunch, that you have the opportunity to be able to go out for lunch, that is privilege.
Which I should do better at, because I never make my lunch.
I know. I've been trying to get better here lately, bringing a little leftovers or something.
And I'll bring it, and then I don't want to eat that, though.
Yeah, well.
That's privilege. I don't even want to eat that. I ate that yesterday.
Like that example right there.
That's
that we can even have that conversation. I know for me, I never take for granted. Having grown up in the projects, the first portion of my life, then moving to the suburbs. Even when moving to the suburbs, I always have understood that we didn't have much, but I was always grateful for what I have.
Yeah.
My kids will tell you that you want to take daddy off?
Oh, goodness.
Be ungrateful.
Well, I'm with you on that. We very rarely agree, but on that we do. That is absolutely true.
I mean, so in a state of the privilege that we live in day to day, because we have, great jobs that we're able to come to, be excited about, be able to make a livable wage that affords us the opportunity to, live in our homes that we are, we in. And, I would say for me, able to pay for college for my kids, but you don't have that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go kids.
But your privilege lies in that you had the opportunity to put your kids in the right places in order for them to be able to get a scholarship.
Yep. And so to be seen and the resources.
You're two for two right now.
I'm heading that third one. That third one's a child. Oh yeah, my sweet potato baby. That's another podcast.
Stop.
Well, he is.
Stop. You can't call. No.
He's a football player. Well,
I know we're gonna continue on Cosmetic Family because we're not gonna have her calling no football player sweet potato. Sorry.
Mm.
We're gonna chase a rabbit for a sec. Tell Cosmetic Family how big your son.
He's very little and delicate. He's 14 years old. He's 6'6". He wears a size 15 shoe, and he's probably about a good 290.
Now, Cosmetic Family
in the 8th grade. But he's so sweet. That's my sweet potato baby.
Okay, so the privilege is that
my baby
has the opportunity to be able to go to the basketball camps, to go to the football camps, all because you have the opportunity to be able.
Because I have some level of privilege, right. which is new for me, because that was absolutely like you. That was not the privilege that I didn't have those particular privileges growing up. That wasn't a reality. And I think that when you talk about privilege, people always get up in arms, right? Because they think it's synonymous with judging and with with people making an inference that, well, you've never been through a hard time, or you get everything handed to you and you don't have to work hard, or you don't have to be exceptional and excellent. And that's not what having privilege means. We absolutely recognize that there are people who can have a number of different privileges and still not be immune to life's hardships. But it does mean that you have unearned benefits or advantages that you receive just by the nature of how you identify or how people perceive you to identify.
We don't even, think about this ability, ability privilege, that's been an able body and without mental disability.
Yeah.
Right. And so for the mere fact for us to have, both of our limbs,
yes,
our hands to be able to work with, privilege, or our legs, like we see that as quote unquote as normal, but there are people who don't have that
necessarily, don't have that ability, and it's unfortunately, especially when you go back to talking about the television and movies and all that, right? You will find that actors with disabilities are most often overlooked for roles where the character has the disability that they have. Like really? Does that make sense?
Like, really?
It's like, what?
You take a job from someone with the disability, and then
you want to take a person who doesn't have MS, so to speak, right?
Right.
To play a person who has MS when they have a viable, talented person with MS that could have played the role. I don't know. Clearly, there's something we're missing. I don't know. It's a bit performative to me.
One of the things as we did some of this research, this one called passing. Right? So passing is his ability to appear to belong to another group.
Yeah.
And that one was like, wow, and that could look, many of different ways, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, and someone who may be biracial, they have, based on the way they look, they can go, to the African American community, or maybe even to the white community, maybe even to the Hispanic community. I mean, they can play, that play in that different space right there, and that comes across as a privilege in some cases.
Wow, and I can just think of hearing stories from like my grandparents and even my great grandparents about the power in passing, right? Like this ability, if you were particularly in the South at that time, because that's where they were all from, but if you were really a light-skinned African American, where people couldn't instantly deduce that you were black from looking at you, the places you could go and the things you could do, especially back then, was so pronounced. Like having that particular privilege of passing was really coveted. Like people, it was really something that folks aspired to, so much so that they were intentional about relationships they were in and who they would have children with, because they wanted to have offspring who had that ability to access that privilege of passing. It's really really a deep concept.
Yeah, I mean, let's take the concept of transportation.
Okay.
That in itself is a privilege. So
it is.
You have a car. I know right now you have to rent a car, and the caddy got. I understood. I guess for the mere fact, me say you have a caddy also.
That's privilege, right?
Like privilege, right? Like everybody doesn't have the luxury car. It's gonna be okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
But transportation privilege, that ability for you to easily get from point A to point B.
Now, I still do have that privilege. Just because I don't have I can easily still.
Yeah, the privilege comes that, all right, my car got totaled, and so therefore I have good insurance. My good insurance allows me to get a rental car and still be able to not even to miss a beat.
Nope. Still made it to the grocery store, did all my errands, and that is absolutely a privilege. I recognize that was a privilege because I've seen other folks who've had incidents where their cars were totaled or they got into an accident and life just became a challenge for them. Like easy tasks like going to the store or going to pick up children or whatever really did become a chore, whereas thank goodness that wasn't my reality. A couple of hours I was in a new vehicle. I was unharmed, thanks goodness. Car was totaled, but I went to the grocery store, finished my day, and that was the end of that.
And there was another privilege I saw that's called couples privilege.
What is a couples privilege?
And so it's this: you have a partner, and you all have the ability, and if you have your 2.5 kids, right, and one kid needs to go to the west and another kid needs to go to the east, and so now you have the opportunity. And so if you're talking about a single parent, for an example, if they have two kids, one needs to go east and west, like you got to figure that out.
That is so good.
From a couples privilege standpoint, hey, you take one and I take one, and and we have representation, for the family that is at the event.
Although I got kind of out of because I got 3. I just
right. So I mean,
but we still can divide, and that is so good. I had never heard of couples privilege. That's excellent.
Yeah. Excellent. Privilege, goes a long ways, and then we got to look at ourselves very intently to say that one, be grateful for all the different things. So if you have a partner, be thankful for your partner. If you have all your limbs, be thankful for your limbs. If you whatever privileged space that you may be in, if you have a vehicle that is working and operating, be thankful, be grateful for those different things. And again, a lot of times that we don't look at those. I don't think we always look at those lenses. I know when I did this research here for this particular podcast, man, it kind of hit home in a lot of different places because again, I want to look at privilege from one lens, but it drove me back to this place of really being grateful. And I think my mom was the one that really instilled that into me early on. Is just be grateful for all that you have, because really at any given moment, man, that can shift, right? You're in your car accident, right? I mean, you could have been. I could have been hurt. Part of the ability privilege, anymore, right there.
That's absolutely true. So we some years ago I did an activity that I thought was game changing for me because it really gave me different perspective. I'm a visual person, right? And so I immediately did it with my kids because I recognized that my husband and I were really intentional about trying to give our kids a lifestyle and an existence and a lived experience growing up that was different than ours, because we both grew up really, really, really underprivileged, right? Growing up in poverty. And so it was called Privilege Poker. Have you ever played Privilege Poker?
I have not.
So the idea is that you have these poker chips, and you know, like when you go to the casino or whatever, and they have all of the different colors stacked or whatever, and then you have this long list of examples of privilege, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone that's playing Privilege Poker, one of the things can say, if you can see without wearing glasses, take a chip. Mm-hmm. So you take a chip. If you wear glasses, mm-hmm. you can't get a chip, right? Mm-hmm. If you have gone to college, take a chip. If you can run unassisted, take a chip, right? And so at the end of this long list of things, and some of them seemed fairly simple, and some of them were really profound. If you are white, take a chip, right? If you are a white male, take a chip, right? And then at the end of this thing, everyone looks at their piles of chips, right? Mm-hmm. And the real deepening and the debriefing comes in the fact that no one's pile was exactly the same.
Right.
And you had some people who had to use two hands to hold all of their chips. And then you had some people who they could have used one hand with some missing fingers, right, to hold their chips. And even when we did that with our children and using the descriptors that we use, that they just thought, oh, well, you know, it's the same kids in the same household. We all were exposed to the same thing. We're going to all have the same amount of chips. But that's not true, right? Because if you're a male, take a chip. Well, my daughter's like, oh, that's not right. I can't take a chip. Right. Like, you cannot. But this is the way it is. And so that was the conversation that we had around, even in this family, and even for as much as you gotta, number one, appreciate all the chips that you have. But you still have to see that even in that, there is a difference in chips. And I encourage them, do this with some of your friends and see how many more chips you have than they do, right? And I absolutely noticed a shift and a change in perspective with my kids, because as they were going out and talking to other people and some of their other friends, they realized, oh, kids will take stuff for granted real quick. But they realized, oh, wow, I did have a lot of chips. But it is a great way to visually see all of the different privileges that you had, even when you feel like you didn't, because I just knew, I was like, oh, all of the black people playing this game, we're going to have a little bit of chips. But at the end of the day, that wasn't necessarily true.
No.
We had lots of chips.
Hey, why don't you play a game of poker? What call it?
Privilege poker.
Privilege poker.
Privilege poker.
And see, I was trying to get that our title right.
Well,
Privilege poker. I'll mess it up here.
Yeah.
Hey, look, play around with that privilege poker and tell us how many chips that you have. And I just want to thank you guys for listening to Cosmetic.
Well, we're tackling topics and telling the truth.
Hey, subscribe and listen to us weekly, and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, don't be shy. I want to hear about what are some of the privileges folks think they have.
Yeah. And as always,
be dynamic.
Be phenomenal.
Be cosmetic.